Hello Trending Topics community, and welcome back for our next video interview. Today we're going on a virtual trip to San Francisco to follow up a very interesting for the Bulgarian innovation ecosystem story. Many of you are probably familiar with the name Leanplum. It's a mobile customer engagement startup, maybe already scale up, that has a team of about 60 people here in Sofia, a team which continues to grow, by the way. Back in February, Leanplum announced that it had received a new investment of $27 million, and maybe just as importantly, that it had appointed a new CEO, George Garrick, who arrived with a few decades of executive experience, who has led 5 companies to an exit, 1 IPO included. And this news brought many questions to us. What will change for Leanplum? Are they heading for an exit anytime soon? What does it all mean for the product development office here in Bulgaria? And now we have the opportunity to discuss all this with George himself. Hi, George. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing? What is it like to run a company like Leanplum from home?
Thanks for taking the time to talk to me this morning. Having a time at Leanplum is of our challenges. Fortunately, we've been doing a lot of conferencing and a lot of work from home in general to adapt fairly well. But I would say this year, most of our clients are in businesses which are benefiting from the stay at home and the lack of travel. Businesses like streaming media, home delivery, gaming, things like that, where we see people making more use of now that they're spending more time at home. So at the moment, despite all of the challenges around us, we've been fortunate enough to be able to continue operating. I'm going to say fairly normally, but I mean that only with respect to our operating plan. We're obviously being conservative in our spending. We're making sure that we're accumulating reserves in the event of a worst case scenario. It's difficult to predict what will happen in the future, but for the moment, we are fortunate that we're able to continue on our plan as it was laid out several months ago. We've not had to make any severe moves. We've not had to do any layoffs, and at the moment, we're not looking as if those are going to be necessary. So we're, we're very fortunate, and we're continuing to move forward. As you know, roughly half of our company is based in Sofia. That's all of our product development and engineering folks. We do have a few of them in the US, but clearly Sofia continues to be our technical headquarters, where all of our product roadmap and technical engineering development is based.
Maybe for some context, can you share the story of how you became the CEO of Leanplum?
I've worked in Silicon Valley for the last 20 years, and I've generally worked with companies that are in what I call the growth stage, where you're transitioning from a very product-driven earlier stage company to a company that needs to scale, that needs to take everything you're doing and start doing it on a broader scale to more companies and more areas, and get into a phase where you're aiming to become, I would say, $100 million company or more. And it takes different things, different skill sets, different types of a different management style to go from 20 or $30 million up to say $100 million compared to going from zero up to the 20 or $30 million point. And so that's been my focus for the last 20 years or so. And I've gotten to know a lot of the VCs in Silicon Valley, and that includes a couple of people that are on our board. And so late last year, when the board realized that it was time to adjust the company to prepare for growth and for scaling, I got a call from one of the board members who I'd worked with over the prior 10 years, and had a chance to meet with him, to hear about Leanplum, to meet with some of the other board members, to spend a few hours with Momchill, who was our founder, and we all hit it off very well. We had a similar vision as to what the company needed, what our opportunities were, and we felt that we made a good connection. And one thing led to another, and in November, I joined the company and have been CEO since then. And Momchill has taken over as a chief product officer. He and I work very, very closely because we're a very product-driven company. And so far, so good. So far, we're having a great time. Things are going well, and we're trying to do our best in the current situation, which is unfortunate for everybody. But there's nothing we can do about it other than just stay focused and making sure we're doing the best things that we can do for our clients, but at the same time, putting the safety of our employees first. So I think we were one of the earlier companies to adapt to working from home, to restrict travel, and to just make sure that the safety and comfort of our people was more important than anything that had to do with our business. And so far, we've been very fortunate as a company. We have 130 or 140 people in the company around the world, and we've only had a couple of instances with people catching the virus, but fortunately, those have been mild and those have passed. And we're just very happy to not have been hit as hard as some other companies have been.
Maybe that changed with the coronavirus outbreak, but one of the biggest questions we often receive from the startup community here in Bulgaria is Leanplum going to pursue an exit anytime soon? And regardless of your answer, like what needs to happen before the company is ready for such a move, assuming you're not going to continue fundraising forever?
As far as the first part of the question, we don't have any plans at the moment to pursue an exit. It's really not something we're aiming for. I would say that our goal now is that with the latest fundraising, our goal is to reach break even by the end of the year, and to do that with some cash reserves in the bank. And then at that point, we'll be in a position to reevaluate how we want to go forward. I think our options are always some type of an exit, but it's definitely not something we're planning toward. The main thing planning toward all being independent, meaning that we break even, we have surplus cash if necessary, and we can then have choices ahead of us, and those choices may include operate independently, and consider that could potentially involve some kind of a combination with other companies in adjacent spaces, so that we can consolidate and create a larger and broader company as far as the services that we offer. But at the moment, we don't have any predetermined paths other than just to stay on course, to have the best year we can given these circumstances, and to get in a position so that by the end of the year, we are self-sufficient, we are independent, and at that point, the board will decide what makes sense as far as going forward. I would say the most likely scenario for us would probably be to hopefully raise some additional money for an even more aggressive expansion by adding more people and opening up in more locations so that we can continue our growth. Because I believe that the services we provide and the whole concept of customer engagement will become more and more important over the next couple of years as companies realize how much the mobile device and the website have become the primary touch point with their customers, and at the same time realize that there are many, many things they can be doing to use those touch points more effectively to provide better services, to develop greater loyalty, and to make it a real win-win for the company and for the consumer. So we see this as a market that will continue to grow and expand for quite a while.
Can you then shed some light on the next markets, product services Leanplum is focusing on?
Okay, in terms of products and services, I would say historically we've been a more of a mobile focused company. Most of our clients use the mobile app as their primary touch point with consumers. There are a great many companies who rely more on the websites as their primary touch point. And so I think one of the areas that we're expanding on is we're accelerating our development of more capabilities for web-centric, what we call web-centric companies, as opposed to mobile-centric companies. We have a very robust offering at the moment for companies that rely on mobile devices, and we're building out similar capabilities for companies that focus mostly on the web. In both of those cases, we are going to start emphasizing what we call optimization a little bit later in the year, where we're focusing not only on providing an engagement platform for customers, but providing our customers the chance to optimize the various things that their customers do as they move through the website, as they move through the app. There are various decision points a consumer may make that determine whether they continue to move through the app or the website or they drop out. And so you may have 100 people that begin the process by opening up the app or logging into the website. And then maybe at the end of the whole process, you have maybe, let's say 5% of those people that come out the other end doing whatever you want them to do, whether that's buying something, downloading content, whatever the case may be. And during that journey through the app or through the website, there are numerous decision points where you have drop off of consumers, some drop out and some continue to move forward. And so at each of those decision points, if you optimize by looking at what things might you do differently in terms of offers you might present, even something as basic as the color scheme you're using or the copy that you're using, it has an effect on how many people continue on versus how many people drop out. And by optimizing that as somebody is moving to the website, then instead of say having 5% of the people at the end of that journey come out doing what you want them to do, you can maybe increase that to 7% or 8%. So you can increase the return on investment or increase the lifetime value of that customer by doing things during that journey that are more optimal and that are also more specifically targeted to the individual, so that a 25-year-old male receives a slightly different experience than a 30-year-old female might receive. So by better targeting and by better optimizing what we do at each point along that journey, we can increase the outcome of that whole experience. And I would say the other thing we're doing that's significant to note is that larger companies, enterprises, generally have different expectations for a product than smaller businesses do. And right now we have one offering which we sell both to smaller companies and to larger companies. And so as we move along our product roadmap this year, by the fourth quarter, we will have two different offerings. One will be optimized for the small business user. The other will be optimized for the enterprise client. So we'll have different offerings as well. And then the final thing is that we've identified certain verticals that we tend to work very well with. And these include media, for instance, as an example. We have a large media network called Talpa, which operates in Europe, which is a big client of ours. We have another client called Takeaway, which is a delivery client, and we're starting to do more and more in the gaming industry. So we're also going to start differentiating a little bit by focusing on verticals where we have a lot of experience and where we've had a lot of success in terms of how well our platform performs in helping with their customer engagement. So you'll see a little bit more specialization and differentiation toward the second half of the year as we go forward.
Can you elaborate a bit on the future role of the Bulgarian office?
Well, clearly, almost half of our employees are located in Sofia, so it's essentially our technical headquarters. We do have some engineers working out of other locations, but we have 50 or 60 people working out of Sofia. So it will continue to be our technical base for the company. The quality of engineering is very, very high in Sofia. The culture is terrific. I've enjoyed visiting, and I've fortunately been able to visit twice before the travel restrictions set in, and I'm looking forward to a chance to get back there again soon. But yes, Sofia will continue to be our technical headquarters, and so as the company grows, we would certainly expect that office to grow as well and continue to be our technical base of operations.
You've gone through several crises. What did you learn about running a company in turbulent times?
The thing that immediately comes to mind is to stay focused on the core things that you need to do to continue to provide value to your clients. And I think that's the most important thing, is continue to deliver, continue to stay focused. At the same time, be sensitive to the needs of your employees, because as much as we consider ourselves to be a technology company, and the technology is certainly core to everything we do, without people, the technology means nothing. And so I would say there's a dual focus of being especially concerned about the welfare of our people during times when there's crisis, making exceptions when you need to, making sure that you provided support that's needed, making sure that you make accommodations that might be required, and then at the same time, doing the same for your clients, making sure that you're staying focused and you're delivering what your clients are expecting. It's important to have reserves so that if things don't pan out the way you expect, you have a fallback situation that you've already thought about and you've already planned for. So you don't find yourself in a reactive mode where you have to take extreme measures. You've already thought through the scenario, you prepared for the scenario, and if a worst case happens, you can execute on a scenario you've already thought through without suddenly finding yourself in a reactive mode where sometimes you may have to make decisions which are not optimal. So it's really those three things. It's making sure that you're doing what you can for your employees, staying focused with your clients, and having backup plans in the event that you encounter things that you weren't expecting.
How are negotiations and communication with customers, investors, partners, buyers, and everyone else changing?
I don't think so. We were fortunate in that we closed a financing round in February. So before the coronavirus situation hit, we had already made a number of organizational adjustments. We raised some additional funding for the company, and we were just lucky from a timing point of view. I think companies that are trying to do that right now are particularly challenged. So fortunately, we were able to get that done, before the crisis hit. And I would say now, as far as negotiating with companies, I don't think that we've really seen any significant changes. I mean, companies are a little bit more cautious about purchasing decisions, of course, and they're trying to conserve their funds and to be careful about their spending in the same way that we are. But what we provide is a critical service for most companies, no matter what the situation is around you, whether times are good or times are challenging. A customer's relationship with its consumers is vital to that company, regardless of how challenging the times are. And so we are fortunate that we provide a core service. And while we've observed a little bit of, I would say, more careful planning and negotiation on behalf of our clients, by and large, things have continued with pretty much the normal type of cadence that we've seen. And a lot of that does relate to the fact that, like I said before, we're fortunate that many of our, in fact, most of our clients are in businesses that are continuing to do well with the current environment. And so we're just very grateful that we're not in the cruising, the cruise business, for instance, or the travel business or the hotel business, since many industries have been severely hurt. Fortunately, a lot of ours are providing valuable products and services that people need during these times.
Putting the coronavirus outbreak aside for a minute, did you implement any strategic changes since you joined Leanplum as a CEO?
Nothing really significant. I would say one of the things I felt the company was doing is I felt the company was maybe trying to do too many things. There was a lot of excitement and a lot of success leading up to the current time, and it's easy to be tempted to try to do too many things and to accommodate too many different types of client requests rather than stay focused. So I think we made a few changes to improve our focus and narrow down what we were doing with the roadmap and with the kinds of clients we were calling on. We were growing so quickly that we maybe lost some of the communications between departments that are very important. When you have a smaller company of, let's say, 30 or 40 or 50 people, it's easy for everybody to keep in good communications with each other. But when you get up to 120, 150, 200 people, it becomes harder to do that. And you can start to lose your ability to communicate between departments, and you can start to get into a situation where there's less collaboration than you ideally want to have between departments. And so, we've done some things to create more cross-functional groups to involve more departments in different stages of planning for our product roadmap, for instance. We've tried to encourage departments to provide feedback and observations to other departments, and just increase the general level of collaboration and communication between departments, while at the same time narrowing our focus a little bit so we didn't try to take on too many things. It's better to do fewer things and do them really well than to try to do too many things and find out that you're not able to do all of them as well as you'd like to do. But for the most part, we've just continued on the course that we had been on, but we're just doing things on a larger scale than we have been doing them before.
I think that with this answer, we can conclude our interview, and I will let you get to your next meeting. Once again, thank you so much for taking the time, and I hope for all the best for you and Leanplum.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your interest. Stay safe and stay healthy.